She counts the seats in the physics section at Zurich's Polytechnic, what we now call ETH Zurich. 5 are filled by men. The 6th is hers. Her name is Mileva Marić. She's precise, steady, and unafraid to be the only woman in the room. Today, she takes her place without asking permission. Across from her sits a 17-year-old who loves questions that refuse to end. Albert Einstein. He will skip some lectures, she will keep immaculate notes. They start as classmates and become study partners, the kind that trade ideas until midnight and walk home arguing happily about what a moving clock might mean. They fall in love the way students do: coffee, long walks, letters that mix equations with endearments. In their correspondence, you can hear it: our work, relative motion, dreams of finishing a paper together. The ideas are a room they share. Before they marry, a secret arrives. In 1902, a daughter is born in Serbia. In their letters they call her Lieserl. One letter worries about scarlet fever. Then the record goes quiet. Many historians believe she died in infancy, others think she was adopted. The truth is lost in a gap of paper and time. The silence hangs over everything that follows. They marry the next year, January 6, 1903, in Bern, plain and practical. He has found work at the Swiss Patent Office. She runs the home that keeps the rhythm of a working family. Soon there's a pram in the hallway and milk on the stove. Life becomes a braid of the intimate and the astonishing. In 1904, their son Hans Albert is born. In that same apartment, at a small table, Albert spends his off hours writing the papers of 1905, his miracle year. In another room, Mileva rocks a baby, sorts bills, and listens for the kettle. It is domestic and historic at once. So what did she contribute to the physics? Here's the careful, honest answer. Mileva was a serious physics student, the only woman in their cohort, and she and Albert studied, read, and argued together for years. Most historians say there is no solid evidence she co-authored the famous 1905 papers. A minority believes the intellectual partnership ran deeper than the record credits. What the archives do show is clear: she was part of his early intellectual world, and the documents can't measure exactly how far that partnership reached. The family moves as careers do. From Bern, where the patent office gives way to lectureships, to Zurich, a post in Prague in 1911, back to Zurich in 1912. Eduard is born in 1910, brilliant, sensitive, the sort of child who stares long at clouds. Meanwhile, Albert's reputation rises fast. Letters arrive. Invitations arrive. Pressure arrives. Then comes Berlin, 1914. Mileva doesn't want to go. Berlin is not her city. The marriage is already cracked. That summer, Albert drafts a list of conditions for staying together: rules about meals, housekeeping, leaving his room on request, and no intimacy. It is hard to read and impossible to forget. After a few bruising weeks, Mileva takes the boys back to Zurich. The separation becomes the fact the story can't work around. They live apart through war and headlines. Albert's fame becomes a weather system of its own. Mileva's days are steady: school schedules, rent, the budget that always needs another column. Letters cross borders, maintenance payments, the boys' progress, negotiations that feel like algebra with feelings. After the legal waiting period, the divorce is finalized in 1919. And here, an unusual clause: if Albert ever wins a Nobel Prize, the prize money will go to Mileva. 3 years later, in 1922, for the 1921 award, he receives it. The funds are placed under Swiss arrangements for the children. Mileva lives on the interest. She invests in Zurich apartments for stability. It is a practical victory in a life that has needed one. The 1920s and 1930s redraw the map again. Eduard, in his 20s, is diagnosed with schizophrenia. The bills multiply, then tower. Mileva sells properties to pay for his care at the Bergsel Clinic. She becomes the parent who learns visiting hours by heart and the bus routes to hospitals without looking. Paperwork becomes a form of love. What of Albert? The lives drift. He will remarry, to Elsa, his cousin, and sail toward American fame. There will be photographs on porches, lectures and honors, a small white house in Princeton. That is another chapter, with a different kind of devotion at its center. Mileva stays in Zurich. She tutors, takes boarders, pays invoices with careful hands. She walks the same streets to the clinic where Eduard lives and brings oranges when she can. When she is tired, she sits on a bench and watches the trams rattle past, and for a moment the city forgives her for not hurrying. If you stand back from the timeline, you can see both the romance and the ledger. The early years, two students daring each other to think bigger. The middle, A home that made room for genius and babies at once. The break, a letter that tried to turn love into a contract. The aftermath, a clause that turned a future prize into present security. And then the long work of care, quiet, mostly invisible, but absolutely decisive. What remains when the myths are set aside? A gifted woman who took a seat in a room that barely made space for her. A partner who shared the early years of the work, and then carried the heavier share of the home. A mother who negotiated boldly to secure her son's future. A caregiver who kept showing up when the headlines had moved on. Mileva Marić died in 1948, in Zurich. Her story doesn't resolve like fiction, it lands like truth. Some pages are missing. Some details are argued. But one scene is certain. A young woman walks into a lecture hall, places her books on the table, and begins. The rest of her life, in love and in loss, follows from that courage. If this gave you a fuller picture of Mileva and the first great love in Einstein's life, please like the video, share the moment that surprised you, and subscribe for tomorrow's chapter on all love and war stories AI.